Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm so glad to have all you focused learners joining me today for this explainer. We're going to be taking a deep, analytical look at the highly anticipated iOS 27 developer beta. But we aren't testing this out on the latest, greatest hardware. Oh, no. We are looking at a really fascinating stress test run on a 7-year-old iPhone 11. Okay, let's dive into this, because the stakes here are honestly pretty high. If you're holding onto an older iPhone, a major operating system upgrade always kind of feels like a massive gamble, right? Are we going to breathe fresh life into this aging hardware? Or is this update going to turn a perfectly good phone into a laggy, overheating brick? And honestly, that skepticism, it's completely justified. The creator who ran these tests started off with a sentiment I think we can all relate to. Every time an iOS update comes out, people regret updating. It's such a common fear. We all worry about that post-update stutter, watching our battery just drain in a matter of hours, and the device getting ridiculously hot just sitting in our pockets. Section 1. The iOS 27 promises, Apple's bold claims. Now, Apple is telling a completely different story this year. They aren't just giving us a few new emojis. Instead, they've boldly promised a massive 30% increase in overall phone speed with iOS 27. I mean, a 30% performance bump on brand new hardware is wild, but promising that kind of leap across the board, even on older devices, is a monumental claim. So how exactly are they pulling this off? Well, the core focus of iOS 27 isn't actually on flashy cosmetic UI changes. Instead, Apple claims to have rewritten the entire code from the ground up, the whole shebang. Their primary goal here is pure stability, massive device efficiency, and stomping out all those major bugs that made iOS 26 such a headache for so many of us. Section 2. The benchmark shock, Geekbench, CPU, and GPU. All right, the promises are huge, but what happens when the rubber actually meets the road? Right after installing this beta on the 7-year-old iPhone 11, the phone immediately started running incredibly hot. And when the testing software booted up, well, the benchmark results were alarming. The phone's multi-core CPU performance, basically its raw multitasking muscle, took a shocking 1,000-point drop. Before the update running on older software, the iPhone 11 pulled a respectable 3960. But right after installing the iOS 27 beta, that score just plummeted to 2600. The device was heating up intensely, and the processing power honestly seemed to be collapsing under the weight of the new code. Now, what's really interesting here is that the graphics processing unit didn't escape the carnage either. We're looking at another massive dive, dropping from a really impressive baseline of 13,921 all the way down to roughly 12,500. So that's a loss of over 1,000 points in sheer graphical rendering power. If we had to summarize these benchmark tests in one word, despair. On paper, it genuinely appeared that the iOS 27 update had completely and severely bottlenecked the iPhone 11's A13 Bionic chip. The synthetic numbers were practically screaming that the phone was struggling just to keep the lights on. Which leads us to the absolute most critical question of this entire explainer. Did real-world gaming performance tank just as badly as the benchmarks? I mean, logically, if the synthetic scores are this terrible, firing up a graphically intense mobile game should theoretically melt the phone, right? Section 3. The ultimate BGMI test, real-world gaming. To figure this out, we shifted gears from synthetic numbers over to the highly demanding Battlegrounds Mobile India. And guys, prepare yourselves for a massive plot twist. Despite those terrible benchmark scores, the game ran at a flawless, constant 60 frames per second. No way, right? Even with the phone running an early, highly unstable beta, the actual gameplay was incredibly smooth. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast we're dealing with. On previous software, pushing HDR extreme settings gave you severe frame drops, the screen automatically dimming itself to save power, and intense heating. But on the iOS 27 beta, a locked 60 FPS, completely stable screen brightness, and practically zero noticeable lag. It's night and day. And let's be super clear about the rigorous conditions here. This wasn't just sitting idle in the game lobby. The tester applied HDR extreme settings on a 7-year-old iPhone 11 and dropped straight into Pachinki, which, if you play the game, you absolutely know is a meat grinder for phone processors. Yes, the phone heated up, but miraculously, it didn't throttle the display brightness, and that frame rate stayed totally locked. It is honestly a gaming miracle. Section 4. Should you install it? Pragmatic advice. Okay, seeing that amazing gaming performance, you might be super tempted to install this immediately. But hold up, first, we've got to clarify exactly what this is. This is a developer beta. By definition, it is an early, inherently unstable version of the software. It's released specifically so app developers can test their code, not for the general public to use as a daily driver. The final polished version won't actually hit phones until September. So the crucial point is this. There are real, severe dangers to installing this on your primary device right now. You are absolutely going to face frequent random app crashes. You're going to encounter weird UI lag and unexpected heating. And most terrifyingly of all, if you decide you hate it and want to downgrade back to stable software, there is a severe risk you will lose all your personal data. However, I know some of you are brave risk takers who just can't be stopped. If you absolutely must try it, the process is pretty straightforward. You just join the Apple Developer Program, navigate to Settings, hit Update, enable beta updates, and select iOS 27 Beta. But please hear this loud and clear. You absolutely must back up all your data first. Consider yourselves heavily warned. Section 5. New iOS 27 features, under the hood boosts. For those of you waiting patiently for September, beyond just the gaming, the efficiency gains from rewriting the code are absolutely massive. App launches are indeed hitting that promised 30% speed increase. And it gets better. Photo loading times are an astonishing 70% faster, and local AirDrop transfers have sped up by a mind-blowing 80%. That is a real game changer. We're also getting a really great mix of functional and cosmetic upgrades. You'll see sharper, more defined app icons, cool liquid glass UI customization options, enhanced parental controls, and a custom equalizer for your AirPods. There is also that heavily promoted on-device AI called Apple Intelligence, which processes securely right on the phone. But a quick heads up, that specific AI feature requires an iPhone 16 or newer to actually run. So who actually gets to experience iOS 27? Well, the cutoff has finally arrived for the iPhone X, XR, and XS series. They are officially dropped. However, the update will be available for the iPhone 11 and everything newer, including the SE2 and SE3. This means the iPhone 11 is achieving a highly impressive 7-year lifespan of major OS support. Seeing a 7-year-old device not just survive a massive code rewrite, but literally thrive under intense gaming stress is just remarkable. It leaves us with a really provocative thought to ponder. Is 7 years of major OS updates the new baseline standard we should demand for our smartphones? And realistically, can Android manufacturers ever catch up to this level of legacy support? Thank you so much for learning.